Now it's
See,
fine.
if you just look into the spring.io, okay, on that you will be finding one small link called as, okay, on that you will be finding one small link called as projects link. Okay, so if you follow this projects link, you'll be finding these are the project. Here the project is in a different notion. It's a project for them, that is for the Spring people. But for us, as a user of a Spring framework, it looks like a module for us. Are you understanding, Anand? So you can consider each of these project as a separate module, meaning it's a pretty much modular kind of framework, pretty much modular. Okay, but our learning is not involved with all these modules. Okay, meaning you'll be finding close to 20 plus module. Meaning if I can just show you here, you'll be finding say like Spring Boot is one module kind of thing, or you can find something like Spring IO platform is one kind of module, and you'll be finding. I expect those who are already having working experience like you both particularly try to participate a little bit. Okay, so say it's like Spring Data Flow kind of platform or module, Spring Cloud, Spring Data. It's pretty much a kind of integration stuff. Okay, with other ecosystem or other platform. Along with that, Spring is having a lot of things surrounding to the framework itself, like Spring Security, Spring Batch, Spring Integration. Okay, and if you go on, like the list is pretty much big. Okay, so you can find like Spring Web Service, Spring Web Flow, Spring LDAP. Okay, so I think someone says working with EJB, so you might have a little bit LDAP kind of idea, and Spring XT and varieties of things. If you look into many people having some idea on the big data kind of environment, Spring is having the integration support for Kafka, which is one of the ingestion kind of framework on big data platform from Apache, and likewise. So if you just go on, it is a very huge list. Okay, so first you must have a clear idea how this Spring framework learning involved. Okay, as I said, it's a pretty much modular. So these module, whatever you are seeing, these are high-end module. Okay, and I'm clarifying because what is the Naresh people might have shared with you as the course curriculum or something like that. So prospective meaning related to that I'm talking about. Now, our learning is actually involved with this framework. Try to understand. So the other module, whatever you are seeing, the other project, whatever you are seeing here, all these are surrounded on top of this framework itself. I repeat again. So whenever we say Spring framework, you learn certain thing of the framework, such as IOC. Okay, IOC is one of the very integral part of the framework. Like AOP will be understanding that one is an kind of integral part of the framework. You'll be learning say like Spring JDBC DAO module. You'll be learning Spring MVC module, Spring Web module. Likewise, few module, meaning actually those things what we are going to learn as a module, all these things comes under this particular one. Meaning I'm referring this one as a our learning target, this particular framework. Okay, in this particular framework, we will be again dividing this one into modules. Meaning we'll be learning this one as IOC module. What you can see here, like the core support for your dependency injection kind of thing. Okay, and we have that transaction support on your JDBC DAO kind of environment, and we have that Spring MVC, Spring Web, what else? The Spring AOP. So around like around 4 to 5 different modules we'll be looking into, but all of them actually part of this framework, meaning which we consider as the integral part of this framework. Possibly you can think of the concept whatever Spring framework was having before 2.0 in the early days of Spring framework, whatever available, those things we are targeting. Okay, meaning we'll be understanding the things relative to 4.x version, but most of the other project whatever you are seeing, like whatever I given the list out here, those things you will be finding they come out pretty much like close to, or around 3.x family, meaning along with 3.x release of Spring started introducing a lot of different modules, as you're saying, meaning boot, batch, integrations, webflow. Likewise, varieties of module they started introducing, possibly when Spring was around its 3.x family. During 3.x family or 2.5 at that time, Spring introduced a lot of different projects or all meaning lot of different modules. Okay, but what we are trying to target is some core concept of the framework. Meaning it is so simple. Meaning I can just give a comparison. How you basically learn the core Java as a language, okay, your core Java learning, and after that you get and learn the APIs like your JDBC API, Servlet API, JSP API. If you think on that way, like those are the API which are surrounded to your core learning, you can understand the Spring framework learning on that way. Meaning what we are learning here is like the core area of your Spring framework. Once your core area of your Spring framework is clear, then what you can do is you can just catch like one module. So like you can just sit for a few days and you can digest the boot, and you can sit for certain days and you can just manage the Spring integration. Likewise you have to plan. Are you understanding? But our learning is pretty much involved with respect to what the core area of the Spring framework, meaning the core elements of the Spring framework, as I said, like IOC, AOP, JDBC, DAO, WebMVC, web, likewise those kind of thing. Any question on this area? Hello?
Yeah, no, Pratap.
Yeah, I have one question,
Yeah.
Pratap.
Yeah.
So you are saying, you are targeting the Spring framework, right? That is like a core for the Spring, right?
Yeah.
So so the Naresh IT, they have provided some curriculum, right? Some syllabus. So is the
Yes.
same of this Spring framework, or is that is different?
Yes, that is what I'm saying. Whatever they might have provided, I never saw that one, but whatever they might have provided, that includes this framework only. You can cross check actually. There will be some IOC related concept,
Okay.
some AOC related concept, WebMVC related concept, web related concept, and what do you say, JDBCTO related concept. So those concepts you will be understanding. Now you may have a question like, okay, after learning this one, how I need to move forward with the remaining part of the Spring. See, let me tell you, as it's having say like 20 plus additional support project or the module, meaning you understand the support project of the Spring framework are built again on top of Spring framework itself. Are you understanding? Meaning it is as simple like how JDBC was implemented using core Java. Making sense or not? The JDBC API, if you look into, it was purely written in your Java itself. That means using your core concept of your Java language. The same thing here. Taking the core concept of your Spring framework, these modules are written.
Okay.
The only thing is these modules target a particular area of your application development. Say like if I'm just taking some much simplified like element out of it. So say like there is something you can understand the batch security, you can easily understand. Possibly if you're looking into the security, the Spring security module is going to address the basic security related, meaning it might be providing the security related infrastructure on your application. Whenever you're developing one application, say like Spring based application, and on that if you need the Spring security, then possibly this module provide those required infrastructure. Are you understanding? So that means the point is whether you are using it on your application or not. So say like you decided, okay, on your project you are going to use Spring security, then possibly learning Spring security is 100% like can be done in a self manner. You can just sit for 5 days, you can easily manage Spring security and you can just use it on your application because you know the core of your Spring. Are you understanding or not? So you don't need to sit actually again with someone in order to learn these things. Okay, but the point is if it is being targeted to like if I target to teach you everything, say like possibly all this module I'm not that much comfortable because it's an integration, a lot of integration stuff. Okay, so every integration stuff you cannot think of to master, right? It's having integration with different technological stuff, right? But if you're targeting, then what you need to do actually, possibly it's going to take a lot of time. Are you understanding? Anna? So you'll be learning say like this framework, which might be going to say like taking around 40 days of time. Okay, and if you just go on understanding okay every bit of module along with it, then you can understand how much time it is going to take. Okay, so that's the reason. That's the reason I'm clarifying. Like you're clearly having the idea. Meaning tomorrow you're coming up saying, okay, so in the Spring all these things are like batch is there, boot is there, like workflow is there, integration is there. So we don't know all these things. That is what I'm saying. In every project, every module of Spring framework is not used. Okay, so say like once you're having the meaning a common Spring project, a normal Spring project, what is being used? You might be finding say like few people use the Spring boot, few people use say like a Spring batch, People will use say like security. It all depends. People will use the integration. Right? Depending upon your kind of application you are working, depending upon the kind of technological integration what you are having. Relative to these module you need to choose. Okay, and these module can be understood in a self manner. Are you getting me or not? What I'm trying to say?
Yes, yes, yes. So generally, how much time take approximately for each module?
Each module you can think of, like 4 or 5 days of time.
Okay,
Yes. Because each module, because once you're having the language level, meaning the core of the framework along with you, then 4 to 5 days if you're spending, then you can easily manage one module.
okay, okay. But no
So
one can use all these modules in
yes,
the project, right?
there will never be a project possibly which is using all these modules in one go. May not be.
Okay,
Often, along with the Spring framework, you'll be finding 4 or 5 support module will be used. So like security could be often used. So like batch could be often used. Boot could be often used. Okay,
okay,
but the remaining that all depends. Like as I said, the kind of application and kind of other technology integration what you need.
okay.
Okay.
Can you advise being a Spring experienced person? So if we are applying for a job for the
Yes.
Spring,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
generally apart
Yes.
from this Spring framework, what
Yes.
should we
If
learn?
you can have, yes, if you can have a little bit, say like Spring Security on your resume and a Spring Batch on your resume and possibly, like Boot, this particular one on your resume, then I consider this is enough input actually for anyone to give you a call.
Okay,
Are you getting or not? So
yes,
these are 2 to 3, as I said, like along with your Spring framework, you just give max to max 4 support module.
okay,
If you
okay,
can manage 4 support module will be wonderful for you. Meaning you'll never lose a chance.
okay. So
Getting me on?
and today nowadays the people are asking microservices, but here
Yes.
that is related to Spring Cloud microservices or
No,
how?
I think Spring is having one microservice module actually.
Oh, in a okay, it is a
Yeah.
separate module.
Yeah, there is a module available, I guess. The web service module also, but I think like there was a microservice module. Oh, I think where it was. I do remember like it
I
was
think that
like
if you see in cloud, it is mentioned in the cloud,
somewhere. Yeah, that's the support is there. I need to check it out.
in the
Where it
cloud,
is.
in the
Yeah,
cloud.
here provide a set of tools for common pattern in a distributed system useful for building. Yeah, this one.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
So that is
So you need to, yeah.
a new technology and how the Spring Cloud.
Meaning Spring Cloud, you can understand from the name, it is an integration support for Spring framework to your cloud platform. Are
Oh,
you getting that? Right?
okay, okay,
That is what I'm saying. All these things, whatever you are saying, most of them are integration support. Meaning if you leave the security, boot, batch kind of stuff, then these things, whatever you are saying, like the Spring Cloud or Spring Data, if you just look into here, or the Spring Cloud, if you look into, these are integration. Meaning
okay.
integration with the cloud platform.
Oh, okay.
Spring Data is integration with the big data platform.
Okay, for example, we have the Amazon Web Services.
Yes.
So there, we have to use the Spring Cloud and we can integrate with the Amazon
Yes,
Web Services.
yes. Yeah. Meaning this is, as I said, like it's a kind of integration. So whenever you are doing any technological integration, it's
Mhm.
pretty much important for you to have both technology clarity, meaning the clarity.
Okay,
So like if you don't have any idea from the Amazon Web Services, then possibly you might be failing in giving the integration to that. Okay, because you need to understand that platform much better before you
okay,
get a kind of. But here, what is exactly meaning of the integration? So Spring says, okay, there could be some possible technology like say like Hadoop platform. There could be some data on your Hadoop or big data platform, and you want to process that data on your Spring environment. Meaning Hadoop will be processing, but that data you want to take into the control of the Spring framework and possibly presenting that, or you are doing some operation on that data, right? So Spring says you don't need to do any kind of low level thing in order to like hook with the meaning big data platform. You don't need to do that. So Spring will provide you the inbuilt hook, meaning there will be from the Spring side there will be some kind of interfaces, some kind of implementation classes which can bridge you from your Spring application to the Hadoop platform. That is what the support. Are you understanding on it?
yes, yes, Pratap.
Meaning this Spring Data, whatever you are seeing, supporting like relational or non-relational map reduce kind of thing, it is not a big data platform, but it just give you that bridge where like possibly the 1,000 line of code you might be writing for the integration on your own, that could be taken away by the Spring framework. And that is what the integration job is. So mostly you'll be finding, if you look into, there are few mobile related versions available. If you look into, there are some social integration. This is possibly something you need to consider. But if you can observe like Spring mobile platform and Spring for Android and all these things, possibly you can consider them as the lightweight stuff. But yeah, one more thing you may need to have on your resume, like Spring web services.
Is
Okay, so
is regular web services different from Spring web services? It is
no, that
like
is what I'm saying. Again, Spring provided. You can think of like all these are the adapter kind of thing.
okay,
That's
got it.
So, meaning I don't know who is questioning, but what about the others? Hello.
Yeah, Pratap, that is fine. So why we are using Spring? I mean, we have
We'll be
some
discussing that. Yeah, we'll be getting into that. Yes.
okay.
Meaning why using in the sense, it's actually a framework for your enterprise scale application development. Meaning it's a one-stop solution, as I said. Meaning you can observe like looking into that many module, that many project, you can just understand it's a one-stop solution. Are you getting me or not?
Yeah. Can we
Meaning what is
integrate
exactly your question, like how you are referring it? Just
now?
clarify.
No, why Spring is so popular? Because we have EJB, we have
Yeah. Now,
Strut.
meaning
Yeah.
you worked with the EJB, right? You said you worked with EJB, struts with EJB.
Yeah, I have worked in EJB.
Yeah, meaning what I can say in one way actually. After working with Spring, you will be realizing, okay, so I can never think like one technology like EJB could be that worst. Meaning after working with Spring, you will be realizing.
Okay.
Meaning it's architectural representation, its easiness, and its robustness. If you look into, it is like you can say 100 times better than EJB.
Is a loosely
Meaning
coupled, right?
wonderfully loosely coupled, absolutely modular, completely pluggable architecture, which your EJB never provide. EJB is an integrated system. Spring is not an integrated system. Spring is a modular system. Okay, you need certain feature of Spring, just enable it. You don't need, just leave it. But meaning on your meaning EJB container, that is on your application server, if you look into, everything is plugged in as a single bundle, and
Okay.
that's kill the resource like anything. But that is never happen on your Spring. Meaning I'll be, whenever I'm starting the discussion, I'll get into. Yeah, go ahead with your question further.
Yeah. So you are saying Spring is very much robust. So
Pretty much
can
robust.
yeah. So can we integrate, let's say, something like JMS component into Spring application?
100%.
Okay. So that part also you are going to cover as part of this course, or
Not that we need to see actually, because we don't have anything on that way. So if you're having any special requirement, that we need to look into. Any other question?
that's all from my side, Pratap.
Yeah, Pratap, just before going into main content, can you share your experience kind of thing? Just
Yes. See, actually, on this teaching domain since last 10 years. Okay, and I'm working since last 7 years. So this is what from my side particularly. Meaning I'll go through that actually a little later. I thought like, okay, in the last I'll giving you that intro. But anyway, that is what the thing. So I'm associated with the Naresh IT. So like for this online actually, since last 3 or 4 years actually, and sometimes I used to take some classroom session actually. But before that, I used to work with some other organization in Amitpet. But as far as the working experience is concerned, since last 7 years, I'm working with like Accenture kind of thing. And now let me just show you. See, yeah, possibly that is from my side, but let me just give you some idea like how you're going to move with this particular learning process. See, on this learning, what I'll be doing is we'll be pretty much having, like the discussion, like everything will be live. Right? It's nothing like, like I'm copy pasting or something. So we'll be going through as much possible concept, because on your Spring framework, you'll be finding two modules which are much more technical. People, those who are having little idea, then you can understand like how important IOC and AOP is. Okay, so we'll be ensuring like your IOC and AOP kind of understanding is absolutely perfect. That part I need to ensure. And as far as the other like JDBC, DAO, Spring MVC is concerned, like if you're having little JDBC kind of idea, then on JDBC DO you are 100% going to click. As far as MVC is concerned, again the same story. Like if you're having little MVC kind of idea, like from some kind of past experiences, you can understand the Spring Web MVC in a much better manner. Okay, but as far as learning here is concerned, what I'll be doing is I'll be sharing one document for each module. Like as I said, for each module, I'm going to share one document with you. Okay, the Google Docs actually you can understand here. So one Google Docs for each module, like so like Spring IOC I'm starting. I'll be sending you on Google Docs. Okay, and that document pretty much contain what you may want to meaning read, but possibly. Okay, and that contains pretty much every bit of technical information what you may need to gather. Okay, so once you're going through that and I'm like started doing things practically with you, then you automatically understand how this particular technology is all about. So if you want some kind of intro on that way, I can just give little intro. But what I'm saying is, can you sit for 10 15 more time, meaning 15 more minutes?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so I can just give you a little idea about this particular framework. How, meaning like there was a question like how EJB compared to EJB kind of technology, Spring is much better. Okay, and that is where like Spring is success. Meaning the Spring success lies because of the comparison with EJB. You don't know actually. Meaning Spring got its popularity because it dares to compare itself with EJB. Okay, now EJB is actually a solution on your Java platform for enterprise grade application, right? Anna? And Spring, like you cross check if you look into why EJB is that much popular is because it is having the solution for your business tier, right? If you look into in Java platform for your application development, we have lots of technology. We have lots of technology in your presentation tier. We have lots of technology on your like integration tier. That means if you look into the data access tier kind of thing. Okay, meaning in the presentation tier you can consider not even the low level technology, but if you look into the framework. Okay, meaning in the presentation tier, if you consider like Servlet JSP as the low level technology. Okay, Servlet JSP JSTL kind of thing as the low level technology. Then on top of those technology, on top meaning on your presentation tier, you'll be finding the technologies like Struts framework, Velocity framework, WebWorks framework. Likewise, like apart meaning the Google Wicket is also one kind of thing like that. Okay, if you look into all these things, there are around meaning at least on your Java platform presentation tier. Okay, meaning a Java kind of application presentation tier, you will be finding at least 10 technology at least. In the other side, if you look into the like data access kind of tier, you will be finding something like a low level technology like JDBC, right? And considering the JDBC as a low level, on top of that you will be finding the frameworks like Hibernate as a very popular framework for ORM kind of thing and data accessing. And not only the Hibernate, if you count on that area, again you will be finding possibly 20 plus technology, 20 plus high-end technology for data access and ORM kind of thing, right? We have Eclipse Link, we have a MyBetis, we have JDO, likewise the list goes on. Meaning the technologies are much more, meaning these areas are competitive in Java platform. Presentation tier is very competitive and data access tier is very competitive. That means on these area, you'll be finding much more technology evolution happen. But starting from Java language, possibly from the evolution of J2E kind of thing, possibly long back, somewhere around 1998 or close to 2000, within that time frame, after the J2E come into picture, the only technology remain on the business tier was the EJ. Am I right or not? Hello?
Yeah, it's right. That's correct.
Yes or no? What I'm saying is, if you look into a Java platform, meaning application development using Java, not just Java, this is a basic application development model where you'll be finding the presentation, business, and data access. These are the three tier if you physically divide, right? Now, what I'm saying is, in your presentation tier, in your data access tier, the technological evolution is always high. And in Java platform, there's a meaning like handful of technology available. But if you look into the business tier, where, because business tier is much sensitive compared to the data access tier and the like presentation tier. Okay, but in the business tier you will be finding there is only one solution left out from the Z2E platform, like easy, maybe like session bean, entity bean, and all this kind of stuff. Okay, and along with EJB kind of tool or EJB kind of technology, like there was some support tools also, like support technology, considering your like JMS kind of thing, and considering your JTA kind of thing, Java Transaction API, and various other. Okay, so they give the like complete platform for your what you say, like the business tier, but the EJB stands as a key component there. But one of the biggest problem with the EJB is its architecture. When if you look into your stateful and stateless architecture management, I'm not talking about because Spring never got the popularity in the recent year. Instead, it got the popularity possibly. Spring popularity started somewhere in 2004 to 2007-8. Within that time frame, Spring got a wonderful popularity. Possibly after its after it got released somewhere in 2003, like within that 1-2 year, it got an immediate popularity. And that popularity, like getting to the peak stage somewhere around 2007-8. Up to that time, it was in a peak stage. And if you look into at that time, it was EJB 2.x family. Okay, and EJB 2.x family architecture, if you look into particularly the stateful architecture, I'm talking about in the perspective of considering both of you are having little ideas. So that's the reason I can refer to any other technology. But as far as you are concerned, Lingaredi, like you just try to listen, and because once you're entering into the subject, it will be much more linear. As I'm giving the intro, so they might be interested to know a little bit comparative idea. So that's the reason I'm moving here and there. Are you understanding, Anna?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, in your Spring 2.x family, one of the biggest disadvantage of EJB was its architecture, pretty worst architecture. Okay, and possibly I can't even believe how the community like EJB kind of community could make that kind of mistake, considering because if you're having that much idea, you'll be finding the EJB architecture was much more centric to stateful session bit. If you look into, okay, if you're having a little bit understanding about the EJB architecture, then you'll be finding that architecture is much more designed centric towards the stateful session bit. Okay, but in practicality, what was the biggest problem and biggest drawback of EJB is they fail in realizing the need for, meaning the amount of, okay, the number of component or the percentage of component in a real-time application, how much percentage can go for stateless and how much percentage can go for stateful. If you're looking into your application development, you will be finding, like 95% of your component, the EJB components are pretty much stateless. Okay, there could be 5%, meaning the component which are stateful. But what they did is, in order to provide much more flexibility for the stateful requirement, the stateful session bin requirement, they made the architecture much complex. But that complexity always, like overkill the stateless session bin. Are you understanding? Meaning, if you look into the workflow of your EJB architecture was very much centric to the stateful session bin. And that was a biggest wrong calculation from the EJB team. They thought like in the application development, possibly 90% or 95% of the components are going to be stateful. Okay, and considering that one, they designed the architecture, but when it comes to the reality, it is absolutely reverse. Because you observe how many times you need the stateful session bin. Most of the time you need the stateless session bin. 95% of the scenario you need stateless. 5%, because stateless session bins are very, very tough. Okay, and they're very rare requirement. And that is where they miscalculate the thing. And that is not the only thing of the EJB as far as the architecture is concerned, but thousands of rules. Thousands of rules. If you write at least one EJB component, okay, you need to write like a remote component, EJB remote interface you have to implement. Then you have to write one home component, right? You have to implement the EJB home interface. You have to write your EJB component. Meaning unnecessary rules. Meaning the management of that architecture was, like not centered around a POSO based architecture. Meaning it is not like, okay, I can write any POSO and let the EJB container to manage it. Like that kind of things possible. So it's pretty much, like if you want to be get managed by the EJB container, your component should be, like compliant to certain rules defined by the EJB specification. Am I right or not?
Yeah.
Yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, someone says like you're having EJB experience. Who actually, I don't forget, meaning I forgot the name.
Soumya Ranjan.
Yeah, yeah. So if you if you look into that, those kind of architecture, like those are the complexities, right?
Yeah.
But if you look into Spring framework, it provides a pretty wonderful architecture. It says, we don't give you any rule. You want to write a stateful kind of representation, you want to write a stateless kind of representation, whatever you want. Because in your like in your Spring kind of environment, we don't have that term called a stateful bean or stateless bean. You can have a realization of the statefulness and stateless. Okay, that realization you can have, but we don't have any term like that. Okay, but what Spring framework says is, if you want to have any kind of stateful kind of stuff, if you want to have a stateless kind of stuff, you can have it, but we don't demand you any kind of rule. Okay, meaning from Spring framework, we don't have any kind of single bit of rule in order to work with what the Spring component. Okay, Spring basically support a pure POJO based architecture. It says, okay, so we are giving you, I mean, we don't give you any any rule. Okay, you write any plain like old Java component, just like a plain Java object, and like Spring container is ready to manage it. That is where the great difference lies. Meaning, no unnecessary like contract compared to your EJB kind of thing. In EJB, there's a lot of contract, but here we don't have any kind of contract. Are you understanding or not?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Now, if you look into the definition, we'll be getting into. But yeah, that's a great comparison with respect to EJB, and that's not just the meaning. If you look into the J2E bundle itself, that's a pretty much heavyweight bundle. You would have realized nowadays, if you download one, like J2E kind of server, that's an application server, say like from IBM, or, like which is pretty much production grade stuff. Okay. IBM WebSphere or anything like that, then you'll be finding the software could be 8 to 10 GB. And if you pick up that, why that kind of a thing? Because it's a pretty much integrated and it's a big bundle. It's a huge piece of bundle, right? And that huge piece of bundle, whatever I'm choosing, like I pay for that, because the, like the J2E container, whatever you pick up, the J2E container such as your application server, like they are paid thing. Right? There is nothing called as free service for that. But possibly the question is, okay, my paying the money there is worth for me. If at all I need all the services, whatever the J2E content is providing. Okay, but in most of the application, you may not need all the services what the J2E content is providing. Meaning you don't have, as I said, like the modular kind of thing. You don't have any kind of plug-in and plug-out kind of thing. You cannot say, okay, I don't need the JMS service, so I will not pay for that. Is there any contract like, okay, IBM will agree with you? No, okay, so if you're not using that, then we'll not take any money from you. There's nothing like that. If you're purchasing the application server, the WebSphere application server, you have to pay for everything. But on your application, you might not be exploiting everything. Correct or not? Meaning, that is what I'm saying. There's no loosely coupling. There is no plug-in, plug-out kind of architecture. Right, so everything is a single tightly bundled, like a container, that what we called as an application server. But if you look into Spring, as I said, like everything is module. Everything is a module, right? So whichever module you need, just pick up that module and work with it. You don't need, just remove it. Now, what is the benefit? The benefit is, first of all, Spring is an open source project, so you don't get to pay anything. And one more wonderful thing is, like for Spring framework, you don't need any kind of application server. You don't need any application server. Meaning you don't need to purchase anything also. Meaning on your production grade also, you don't need to, if you're working with Spring, you don't need any application server. If you're having a bare minimum web server, like a Tomcat kind of thing, that is also enough for you. And can you imagine a kind of tool or a kind of framework competing with EJB and completely eliminating the concept of application server? Right? A person who is really coming from EJB background, he will never believe that. Okay, you'll be always having the confusion like how that is possible. I need a container, right? If a kind of framework is providing that many service, 100% need to be inside in the form of some kind of container, some kind of server. But what I'm saying is, in Spring ecosystem, we don't have a term called as server. There's no application server. You don't need any application server. Okay, it's all about just take the jar file and start working. Okay, possibly if it is application which is having web-based involvement, then you need one third-party web server. Okay, beyond that you don't need anything. That means you imagine like on a Spring-based application, you don't have any application server costing first of all. Are you getting me or not?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so wonderful benefit. There's a wonderful benefit on that way. Okay, so yeah, possibly this definition I'm not hitting. I'm trying to stay out of that particular so that I can talk to you on that direction tomorrow. Like possibly I need to take an entire like session regarding to explaining that definition. But I'm just giving the comparison with respect to EJB, and because that is what I'm saying. Because Spring got its popularity because it is dare to compare itself with EJB. Okay, whenever it dares to compare with EJB, anyone coming and looking into this, they will 100% think like, okay, possibly again the Spring might be in the form of application server kind of container. Okay, but there's nothing, there's no notion like that, there's no container. Everything is purely like any other like API you might have worked with, just all about a jar file. Just pick up the jar file and put in your application class path or things like that and start working. Now can you imagine like such a framework in Java platform daring to compete with EJB, saying there is no container? Right. So this is the way, like it drives people to think about Spring. And as I said, like the licensing cost is not there, because if you purchase one application server, you know the licensing cost. But here there is no licensing cost. It's because this framework is entirely open source, right? So open source is not just in the perspective of the money or the licensing part, but as far as its like involvement. Okay, it's a community driven. You can consider the Spring framework development. It's community driven. And it's pretty open actually. They take your point of view and like they consider your request and all these things. So there's a lot of activity happen in this framework particularly, which makes the developers to like lean towards this technology or this framework. Are you understanding? So that is what I mentioned actually on the definition. If you observe, it is an open source, lightweight, multi-tier enterprise application framework. Now possibly before Spring framework, anytime like the thought come into the mind like, okay, enterprise application solution, meaning EJB and J2E comes into picture, right? But now onward you are having the competitor like Spring. Spring is a multi-tier, and that is the wonderful part of the Spring. Spring is a multi-tier enterprise application framework. What's the meaning of that? Multi-tier in the sense, if you look into your EJB kind of thing, actually EJB is a tool in your business tier. Okay, but Spring is not like that. It's a complete solution. As I said, like, it's a one-stop solution. Spring is having the solution on the business tier. Spring is having the solution on the presentation tier. Spring is having the solution on the like data access tier. Not just the data access, this presentation, business and data access. Along with that, it is having much more technological integration support to the cloud, to the big data, to the social. I mean, nowadays you can understand, I mean, most of the application you are having a requirement for social application integration, like integration with say like Facebook, integration with say like LinkedIn, integration with Twitter, right? So Spring provides the solution for that. Meaning Spring is nowadays a framework which is providing the like base infrastructure for building the enterprise application. That's in a multi-tier manner. Along with that, it is an integration framework also you can consider. Okay, meaning you can consider this one as an integration tool. Integration with what? Integration with varieties of technology. Integration with cloud platform. Integration with mobile platform. Integration with Hadoop platform, meaning big data platform. What else? Right? Pretty much, like you can think like, okay, if I go for Spring, then today I have certain requirement. Tomorrow I may get into extension. Tomorrow I need say like a cloud integration. Tomorrow I need a Hadoop integration. You can just bring those corresponding jar file, put into your application path, start integrating. Understanding, so that is where this tool is pretty much like popular. Any question?
The person who knows Spring doesn't need to know EJB, right?
It need to be, but having some EJB idea can give you a wonderful comparative idea.
For example, like me, I don't know the EJB, but I'm learning Spring. Is it okay, or
it's absolutely okay. What I'm saying is, if you look into Spring framework documentation, possibly nowadays that that competition is little bit low, meaning because Spring really understood that it overtakes J2E. First of all, you need to understand that. Okay, the Spring community really realized that they overtake the J2E platform. So they don't want to compete with J2E. Now they want to sync with J2E. Are you
Okay.
understanding, Anna?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what's the meaning of that? That means uh, at the early days of Spring evolution, they always, whenever they give a talk, they compare with EJB. They compare with EJB. Not just comparing with EJB, they compare with the JTA transaction. They compare with the EJB architectural issues. Likewise, they give the company talk and they dominate the EJB. Okay, and after that, like one Spring suppress, like EJB kind of stuff. Now, like EJB fall into the Spring's track. If you observe, is meaning in your J2E ecosystem now, on your J2E platform now, you'll be finding specifications are coming out which are introduced or which are initially coined by Spring framework. See, if you look into in your J2E, you'll be finding nowadays one API available called a JPA, Java Persistence API. If you look into the JPA, actually JPA is a exact replica of your Hibernate. Right? Java Persistence API, if you look into, which is a specification they define, that specification was a kind of copy of your Hibernate. Meaning by looking into the Hibernate, they put a copy there as a JPA specification, saying, okay, we are giving you the ORM specification and vendors can implement it. The same story happened with others. Are you getting or not? So like in your on your Spring framework, we are having one module called as the first module, that is the Ioc model, where you will be learning something regarding the dependency injection. But nowadays, if you look into on your J2E platform, we have one a new specification called as dependency injection, right? So now what is happening is J2E is not competing with them also. Okay, the way the things was represented, possible, I mean, presented earlier. But what the J2E is doing is J2E is now trying to standardize the thing much more, like trying to making the thing specification driven. Whenever a new thing's coming out from any third party tool, possibly J2E trying to look into that, observing that one, and possibly putting that one in the form of a specification in J2E platform. Okay, there's a lot of specification coming into the J2E platform by observing the other technology. One of the great example from the Hibernate, they bring the JPA. By looking into the Hibernate, they bring the JPA API, and by looking into the like Spring dependency injection, they bring one more API. I mean, one more specification in the J2E platform called as dependency injection. Okay, so that's the ways they're trying to sync each other. Okay, so yeah, that's the biggest part of Spring. So possibly Spring nowadays overtakes, I mean, the J2E. So thinking about like, okay, we need to have at least some kind of idea to learn Spring, that is wrong. Meaning EJB idea to learn Spring is a wrong thing. Okay, but if you're having that, you can easily compare in certain areas. You getting or not?
Yes, yes. Okay. Got. Thank you.
Any other question?
I don't have any.
Okay. So who else is there? So Linga Reddy Alva. Okay. So you have any question?
No, no, I don't have any questions. Just now,
Are you understanding like what I'm trying to say? Because you said like you are a little bit new to Java.
right, right. I'm comfortable.
Yeah. Okay. So Mirandan,
Yeah, Pratap, even I'm fine. But
are you understanding what I'm trying to say?
yeah, yeah.
No question, right?
Sorry,
No
Pratap.
question. No question.
No, I have one question. You said application server, something about application servers. You said Tomcat is an web server, right?
Yes. Mhm.
But I think Tomcat is also an application server, because when you will start the Tomcat 7.x server,
Mhm.
then you can see in the log saying application server started.
See,
So
meaning yes. See, let me tell you.
yeah,
What is there in the log? It is not that concept actually. What is your understanding about application server and web server? What is your idea about? Let us talk about the technicality, not
okay,
the YouTube video, whatever someone plays present there. I think you would have seen that one.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
let me give you an idea. Application server, the concept, because I don't want to name anything, but the
Hmm,
application server, according to the Java community, anything which is the implementation of your J2E specification. Is it clear? We
correct.
call them as application server. Okay. And
Okay.
the other one is web server. Web server is something which is implementing the HTTP protocol. Are you understanding or not?
Yeah.
That's the concept. There is no other thing. Now, so say like possibly whenever Apache people developed that applications, meaning that a web server like Meaning you can call that as web, meaning web server with servlet container or something like that. That will be much fine, but that's really not an application server. Application server in Java community gives an idea to a Java developer that that server is having the capability of the J2E stuff. Are you getting on it? Meaning on that container, on that server, can I deploy the EJB component? Can I expect the JTA transaction stuff? Can I expect
Yeah.
the JPA implementation? Can I expect the JMS implementation? If all these things are there, whatever they are inside my J2E specification or Java Enterprise Edition specification, then I will be referring that one as an application server. Okay, but
Okay.
as far as web server is concerned, web server is a very simple thing, which is just implementing the web protocol, which is your HTTP protocol.
Yeah.
Possibly in Java platform, whenever we talk about web server, in Java platform, whenever we talk about web server, we consider an implementation of HTTP protocol along with the servlet and JSP container. Okay, most of the time your
Yeah.
Tomcat, JT, those are actually Java based web server. Java based web server in the sense having the web server functionality along with the servlet container and JSP container. Are you getting or not?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
I
it's a
got your
clear
point.
difference. Yeah, it's a clear difference. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so simple, man. It is, like whenever people used to teach, actually they write, okay, like system.out.println, and like hello world. Actually, does it mean actually like okay, they're saying hello world to the universe? If you write anything, you write your name, your girlfriend name, your some other friend name, that will be printed. I mean, that is what they did actually. Who the Apache people while developing Tomcat, they have written that on the application server. Possibly that could be more, like catchy term or something like that, and they have
Hmm.
written. Okay, so if
Okay.
you start debating them, possibly they need to change it. Are you getting my point? So there
Okay.
is,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, there's nothing left out to debate on that. It's a very simple technical point. Okay.
Okay.
So application server, anybody in Java community understand as an implementation of your J2E server, J2E
Yeah.
specification.
Even
Any
I
other
had
question?
that. Yeah. Even I had that doubt in my mind, so that's why I asked.
Now, meaning I understood the question is so straightforward to that YouTube video, so that is what I'm saying.
Yeah. 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 Okay.
So, any other question?
Yeah, no
Uh,
question. Okay.
Nothing from
Okay,
my side,
so
brother.
yeah, so what I'll be doing is, so tomorrow I'll be giving you this comparative idea. That means whatever the thing I mentioned here, like what is exactly the open source means, lightweight, how these terms are related. Whenever I'm saying lightweight, how I'm comparing. Whenever I'm saying open source, in what direction I'm saying. Okay, so those things I'll be describing. And there is a little bit comparative things I have written here. Okay, but this document will be shared with you. Like once you're moving forward, I'll be sharing this document and we'll be having little comparison with J2E. There's a lot of comparison I did. Okay, and what I'll be doing is tomorrow I'll be giving you the idea regarding what are the module we are going to do, and possibly tomorrow I can start with the IOC module. Are you getting on it? Because one of the very key module of your Spring framework is the IOC module. So once you understood that one, possibly the remaining will be pretty easier. Let me tell you, for IOC you don't need any kind of prerequisite. Okay, IOC just need your core Java programming, core programming in a pretty much conceptual way, not just coding, but you should have a clear conceptual idea. Okay, in core Java, whatever the things you did, or those things, if you are having basic conceptual view, then you can like catch the IOC in a very easy manner. So there's nothing technicality here, but you must have a little bit realization. A lot of realization is required. Okay, you should be in a position to immediately realize, okay, this kind of thing is happening, because there is nothing called as a container, as I said. So possibly that will be always giving you confusion, like how all these things are happening. But can you just believe, like Spring framework compared to your J2E, what your J2E container do, Spring simulate that one with just an object. Imagine actually, one single object of your Spring is going to simulate the J2E kind of container. I mean, may not be entirely, but I'm just trying to make a comparative idea. Okay, so that kind of like intelligent design. This is it's a wonderfully organized technology. Yeah, so I'd like to stop here. I guess as that we can move properly tomorrow onward.